So I'm just compelled to start by asking you if anyone got any information in the midst of that guided meditation. Anybody get anything? Okay, we got a few people did. So chances are you're going to when you go to sleep tonight. Something's going to click because you opened something up. And if you're watching this online and you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to today's guided meditation on intuition and see what comes. I'm so glad that y'all are here today. It's interesting. My job here is to inspire you, and right now I'm feeling a need to inform you. Maybe I'll inspire you before I'm done. I want to talk about a thing that I learned through neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, which is kind of a random group of ideas that don't all connect, but they all make sense and seem to stand alone. And the one I want to talk to you about is this idea that every one of us has some dance going on between levels of being certain about what's in our lives and being uncertain about what's going on in our lives. This is natural. This is part of being alive. And it just depends on your temperament as to where you want that to be. People who are highly adventurous and go to horror movies and do things that just get their blood pumping, they've got a good space in their psyche for being uncertain about things. They want some of that. That keeps them interested in life, keeps them from being bored. Most of us really like more certainty in our lives. We want to know that things are working. We want to know that what's going to happen tomorrow is going to be somewhat like today, which is an interesting place to be because we're in a movement that teaches about change. I've had colleagues laugh with me when we've said, for a movement that says change your thinking, change your life, we really don't like to change much, do we? Having been in this movement for a number of years, I've seen the changes come, and most people grumble about it when the changes come. Oh, you're reorganizing, you're changing that. I liked it the way it was. That's just human nature. We all have a certain level of wanting to be certain about the way things are. However, we are living in a time, the last few months, and I don't know how far into the future, that's part of the uncertainty. We're going to have a lot of uncertainty around. We're not going to be as certain about things as we've always been. We're not, and even though in this teaching we teach that you are absolutely in control of your experience, well, you are, within the context of what is happening to us societally or as a species on planet Earth. Things are changing. In my lifetime, I have never seen the government make such demands on people that have been made in the last few months. It's quite amazing that requirement is there, and that we have to shut down, or we aren't allowed to go places, or that we have to wear certain things, or be a certain way, or stand a certain distance. This is all new. I'm not young, so I know this is new for most of you as well. And yet here we are in the midst of it. Why are we doing all this? Well, we're doing it because the experts say we need to. They're saying if we're going to get through this pandemic, if we're going to get through this economic business that's going on, if we're going to get through these major things that are going on, and that includes our race relations, that we have to do what they say. So we do the best that we can with it. But yet that uncertainty remains because we don't quite know how it's going to end up. Well, we don't really know at all how it's going to end up. And this is not new to the human experience not to know. Every time we've gone into a major military conflict in the world, we didn't know. We rooted that we would get through it and that we would be sound as a nation, as a culture, but we didn't know. We didn't. So how are these things working out? We're going through the same thing that our parents and our grandparents and generations before them went through when things just got weird, when things got a way that we didn't want it to go. Yet it's our responsibility about what's happening to us in our experience of life. That's the place where we control things. We can't decide how they are out there. We can only do things within the range of what is important for us to do collectively and individually. And I think as metaphysicians and practitioners of the science of mind, we can do some things that maybe some other people are mindful of, aren't aware of. We can claim the truth of us and know that the divine dwells at the point of us. And we can be certain about that. But we can't be certain about when things are going to open up and what's going to be required of us, and will there be another wave of this virus, and how will we deal with that, and what will the government tell us? There's a lot of unknowns. So it's really important at this time for us to let go of any sense that we can count on being certain. In the day-to-day activities, maybe not so much. And maybe there will be more of that before it's over. We don't really know. We'd all like for it to go back to the way it was, but we've already talked a number of times about how that's just not going to happen. We're not going back to the way things were. A new world is emerging. A new way of being is emerging. We're not going to like all of it. It's not going to meet all of our preferences. Yet, it's the way it's going to emerge. And it's important for us as individuals, as a spiritual community, to look at this and think about it and be clear about what our role is in this and how we're to deal with it. Well, right now we're in the goo. We're in that time where people are acting out. Things are not as they have been. There's no reliability around any of this. And the things that I keep seeing seem to be falling into three energetic categories. One is that people are experiencing grief because the life they've known for all of their lives, most likely, isn't the same anymore. Some people have had to say goodbye to relatives that have passed without seeing them, without being able to tell them they love them. It's got to be hard. Now, grief is bigger than death, though. Grief is that heavy energy that we use to fill the space when something's gone. And for many people, the life that we've known for all these years is kind of gone. It's different. And we're finding that we're facing something new that hasn't been well defined yet. So grief is kind of an expected thing that could happen. Another thing, especially, you'll see this if you go on Facebook at all, there's a lot of anger going around. So if you go to Facebook or you go into any news feed, most of the things people are talking about are people being angry. For myriad reasons, but it doesn't really matter. What anger is this amazing energy. It's this outward energy that we use to mask our fear. And in some cases, the fear that's going on is that things could remain the same. And there's a lot of us that don't want things to remain the same in certain ways. And then there are other things we would like to remain the same, like having an income, having a job, having food in the refrigerator, having gas in the car's gas tank. Those are things that we'd like to be certain about. And there's other things we'd like to see change. So everything is kind of garbled. And it's all blending together and mixing, and it's not like a lovely soup. It's more like sludge, and we're not quite sure what to do with it. And the third one that seems to be going on is a sadness that so many people are struggling, that so many people are just barely hanging on. A sadness that people are having to live differently without having really any input on how that they can see. Now, we know that we have input. We know that we have the ability to create the life that we want, even in this kind of chaotic environment. But that's not what the world's doing right now. The world is struggling with this. So that brings me to this idea that we have something to do. We have things to do to get through this so that we can be the leaders of this change. And I'm not saying that we have to stand in front of everybody. I'm saying that we have to take that initiative to know that everything is okay. And this is going to be uncomfortable for us too. Something that I'm observing that's being asked of people right now, there's this other thing that goes on that we tend toward being introverted or extroverted. I'm an extrovert, Barbara's an introvert. And what I see extroverts having to struggle with is that we're having to go inside and work on what's on the inside of us right now, which is a whole lot less fun than engaging with you. That's way more fun than having to look on the inside. So extroverts are having to work on the inside, where introverts are perfectly at home. Everything's great on the inside. They've been working on that since they were kids. Everything's fine there. The introverts are having to find their voice and say it out loud, even when it's terribly uncomfortable. So we're all up against this, trying to find our way with it. We're all being asked to do something that is not comfortable and to work with one another to get through this thing. And I believe that we are required to work with one another. And I'm so grateful for this community that we can come into the room together and remember who we are. A lot of people in the world don't have that. I'm also grateful to the thousands of people that go to our website to be reminded of this. So no matter how you find it, how you do the work, it's important to remember that we will get through this. We may not be able to determine exactly what it's going to look like and how it's going to work, but we're going to get through it. And this is important for all of us. So, this is the time for us as religious scientists, as practitioners of the science of mind, to remember to be less critical of the people around us and to be more open to the possibilities before us as this thing emerges. Our job, I believe, is to remain compassionate no matter what. Now, many of you might say, well, I am a compassionate person. Well, and I'm sure you are in some ways. But just let me throw some ideas out to you. What are your feelings about Donald Trump? Compassionate people. What are your feelings about the Chinese government? Compassionate people. What are your feelings about rioters? About anarchists? Can you have compassion for them? It's really easy to judge right now. It's really easy to get on that claim that there are bad people out in the world. But frankly, everyone is doing what they think is right. We don't have to agree with them, but we don't have to find them bad or wrong. None of those things, having oppressive governments, having obnoxious leaders, having people who are focused on destruction more than creation, these are not new concepts, but they're all coming together all at once on us. And our job is to remain compassionate and to be forgiving, first and foremost for ourselves when we fall short, so that we are prepared to be there for others, because you can't be there for others if you're not there for yourself. So that's our work. I've mentioned this many times, and it always seems relevant at this kind of a point. My studying of the Christian faith, the early days of the Christian faith, when it was small groups of people meeting in homes, was that these people that came together and listened to the Christian story, were happy people, because they lived in a world that was suffering. They lived in a world where survival was the key. And when people saw these happy people, they go, what are they drinking? And the truth was that they would say, I'm meeting with a group of people that have found a new way to be. And more people came, and more people came, and pretty soon it took over the entire Roman Empire, because there was something better in it. And frankly, I think we right now have something better in what we have. We have the ability to look at ourselves and know that everything that we need is within us. Everything that we desire is right here. All we have to do is get clear about it and take the action that's necessary. Compassionately, lovingly, remembering the truth that God is everywhere and always. And when we do, we get a better result than we got otherwise. I believe it's time to stop struggling with life, even though life is screaming for a struggle right now. It's time to keep a smile on your face, even if it's behind a mask. It's time to remember the truth. And so what I want to do is I want to call on the wisdom of the Native American people. I was very grateful to Crystal Madden, who reminded me of something that was written many years ago, but absolutely feels like it could have been written yesterday and would be that relevant. And that's what I want to share with you. Actually, before I do, there's one other thing that I want to say. We are getting through this. The human experience has always gotten through this and worse. And just 3 examples. The Civil War. More Americans died in the Civil War than any war before or since. But what we left that war with were laws that said that all men and women are free. That was better. Even though it was just a start, it was better. We went into World War I against the Germans. And when that war was over, the Roaring Twenties came. And there was prosperity, and there was celebration. It was a grand time. And then the Great Depression happened. And then World War II right with it. And when we came out of that again, this became an incredibly prosperous nation. It was at that point that the United States actually became the world leader. So every time we've fallen into this chasm of despair, something better has emerged. It's going to happen this time too. But listen to the words of the Hopi elders. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold to the shore. They will feel that they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has a destination. The elders say they must let go of the shore. Say we must let go of the shore. Push off into the middle of the river. Keep our eyes open and our heads above water. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personal, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your vocabulary. And all that we do must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we have been waiting for. So I declare that our future is in our hands. No matter what governments do, our future is in our hands. And it's our job to be open, compassionate, flexible, and ready to do what it takes to give birth to a new world, because that's what's happening. Let's close this with a treatment. So what I know is that there is a presence, there is a power that is absolute, it is infinite, it is pure, it is all. It is right here, right now. It always has been and it always will be. It dwells at the point of each one in this room. It is divine, and it shows up as the divine life of each of us to bring to the world a light that the world is ready for. A world of cooperation, a world of compassion, a world of love, a world filled with the light of Spirit in all that we do, in all that we think, and all that we say. I know that no matter what is happening in the world, that we are in the midst of the divine and that something wonderful is emerging. So I claim that emergence. I claim that perfection in my life and in all life. And I know that whatever it takes, we are up to the task, for we are the ones we've been waiting for. And knowing that this is so, with absolute gratitude and love, I simply let it be, right here, right now, and forevermore. And so it is. Thank you. I love you.